r/ask Reddit. Police officers of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing you've caught teenagers or kids doing that is illegal, but you found hilarious? I feel like a cop has a story about me and 2 other people. Here goes. I was 20 at the time and at an outdoor party at a friend's. Late fall, 50 degrees or so, no leaves left on the trees. Roughly 50 to 60 people, mostly underage, most were drinking. My friend's parents lived in a nicer part of a bad area and owned an inflatable bounce house business. They had everything set up. A bounce house, sumo suits, massive slide, all sorts of drunken fun shit. Around 10:30 it's getting loud and the police show up. Someone yells cops, run. And everyone starts running. I decide to join the crowd and end up hiding in a bush with 2 people. Then, reality hits. I'm wearing a white hoodie, the guy next to me has on a neon yellow hoodie, and this girl has a fucking glow necklace on. The bush. Not a fucking leaf on it. Right then a cop walks up, starts laughing and asks, really guys? And shines a flashlight directly on us. He instructs us to head back to the driveway with the other captives and gives all of us a pretty hilarious speech. Seriously? We are the Flint Police Department. We have a million things better to do rather than chase down drunk minors. We had 2 murders just this week. We were just coming by to tell you to keep the noise down. Now we are pouring out all your beer and calling your parents. Now we are even. Didn't give out any tickets, just poured out all the beer and called everyone's parents. I had a kind of similar experience once when young and foolish. A large group of underage kids were at a party one night when we decided to go grab some food. I was quite drunk and having difficulty walking on my own, so a couple of friends were holding me up. After a while a couple of cop cars pulled into the street we were walking down and all my friends scramble. One of the guys holding me up grabs an open bottle of alcohol out of my hand before running off. So I'm left standing on my own in the middle of the street very obviously drunk and the cops come up to me. Ask me if I had been drinking, and I tell them yes at a party. They ask me if I have any alcohol on me, and I tell them yes I do in my backpack. The cop just says thanks for being honest. We knew about your party and it all seemed under control there, and you guys can drink at a private place, but you can't be drinking in public. You are going to have to pour that alcohol out in your backpack where I can see it. Then you need to go and find your buddy who took that open bottle off you and tell him you owe him one. Because you would be in serious trouble if we found you with an open bottle on you. Have a good night and don't get into any trouble. Then he just walks back to the cars with the other guys and drives off. Took me about 20 minutes to find my friends and tell them what happened. One of them just starts pissing himself laughing saying he was hiding in a bush nearby and watched the whole thing and thought I was getting super busted. My brother is a cop and he told me one time he got a call around 9:30 in the morning for a suspicious person sitting in their car in a neighborhood. My bro goes up to him and asks what he's doing. Dude is waiting for his wife to leave for work so he can go back home and play WoW all day instead of go to his own job. My bro tells him to go wait somewhere else because he's freaking out the neighbors. Edit. To clarify a few things, the guy was parked in a different neighborhood than his own because he was hiding from his wife until she left the house, so nobody knew him, and it's obviously suspicious to be idling your car in front of some random house in a neighborhood while kids are going to school. It's not illegal, but he took the good advice to go wait somewhere else, preferably more public like a Walmart parking lot or something. Edit. Also the dude was scared as shit that the cops were going to go tell his wife that he was hiding from her because he wanted to go back home and play video games. My brother of course doesn't give two shits about that. He just wanted the dude to go somewhere else so people would stop calling about it and causing him needless work. Edit. And yes, you can call the cops for any reason you want. It's a necessary but annoying part of a cop's job to go tell some oblivious man Bobby to wait somewhere else because they are disturbing the paranoid soccer moms who think they are going to nab their kids. My friend had a bunch of prop arms and legs in his car, you know, college. He and his other friend were trespassing in the Northfield tunnels. Google it, and when they get back to the car there is a cop waiting. He asks to see in the trunk, so they open it. He jumps back a secretary, but quickly realizes their arms and legs are fake and he hasn't caught some serial killers. Then gives them a very stern shut the fuck up look as he calls his partner from the car to come look at this, all shaky voiced, as he tells my friend and his friend to put their hands up. Hella serious. The other cop comes over, looks in the trunk and freaks the fuck out, screams, and runs away back to the car. At which point the first cop bursts out laughing and tells my friends haha, he was, haha he was in Vietnam, haha and does a get out of here gesture and sends them on their way. So basically he used my friend to pull a super cruel practical joke on his partner. I got a call about two kids, teenagers, smoking weed in their park truck down by the duck pond. You know the one. Anyways, I contacted them, and they were very respectful and insisted on filming me on their cell phones while I spoke to them. I told them I wasn't interested in their weed, still illegal in my state, but I wanted to make sure they got home safe, that the driver was sober enough to operate the vehicle. I did basic FSTs on the driver and determined he was good to drive, all the while his buddy filming every movement and interaction, so I decided to have some fun. By the end of the evaluation I had the nervous driver doing the YMCA sprinkler move and a janky ass version of the robot before he finally realized what was happening. His buddy filming realized right away, and his defensive lawyer cameraman posture dissolved into a stoned kid that was now having a good time again. The driver broke down and busted up laughing before shaking my hand and hopping back in his truck. The cameraman gave me a fist bump and just said thank you in a way that I took as wow, good to know some of you are human. It's annoying that we have to live with a stigma that gets portrayed by popular media, and quite frankly some of us deserve it. But it's still nice to know when you get through to someone, I mean really alter their perception and break down a barrier put up by others. Cops are here to make sure people don't hurt one another, that's it. If you're going to hurt someone else, even if it's just a strong possibility, I'm your worst enemy. But if you're just swaying from societal norms that change like the weather and being yourself, have at it man. You only live once. Okay, off soapbox. Oh, proofreading FST equals field sobriety test. Edit. Well, I wasn't expecting gold. Thank you very much. Thank you for this post. It is good to be reminded that there are many really great cops like yourself out there. I've had a winding road of dealing with police that has ultimately led me to believe that most cops are decent people, but that certainly wasn't how I started out. I grew up in a pretty small, very conservative town that had a pretty terrible police force. To be fair, I would blame this largely on the police chief at the time of my formative teenage years, who happened to be a member of one of those particularly fire and brimstone brands of Pentecostal faiths. The point is that despite the fact that our town had a truly terrible meth problem, the police seemed far more interested in busting teenagers smoking pot and drinking. Every day of high school there would be at least two cruisers circling the high school at lunch hour, handing armits, minor and possession of tobacco. In my many years since leaving that town, I have not met even a single person who has ever even heard of an MIPT. For me though, the really weird thing about that town was the deeply entrenched good old boy system they had there. My particular group of friends were all just your general musician types that smoked a little weed, drank a few beers, and then just jammed out, never bothering anybody. But of course we would occasionally get busted, or be at parties that got busted. The fucked up thing was that I personally never, not once, got busted along with everyone else, and occasionally could pull my friends out of getting busted as well. This apparently was because both of my parents were well known and well liked ER docs. Obviously every situation was slightly different, but the general conversation went like this. Cop looks at my ID, goes to car, comes back a few minutes later, Viva Spider Jerusalem. You Doc Jerusalem's kid? Me, yeah. Cop looks back at my ID one more time, hands it back to me, get out of here. This kind of fucked with me. Though I was glad to be out of trouble, it felt really unfair that others were getting busted for the exact same things I was doing. Years later, when I was old enough, I told my dad some of those stories. He eventually just kind of laughed and shook his head and said, "Yeah, there's a sort of unspoken rule between cops and docs in small towns like this. We are the ones that sew them up when things go bad." Then I went to college in this even smaller but very liberal little town, and it was like night and day. This is not meant to draw political lines, but just to point out the difference in experience. There the cops were extremely cool, and as long as you weren't being violent, they pretty much left you alone. Given it was a small place with very little crime, so the main things they had to deal with were noise complaints, drunk driving, and the occasional car break-in. College campus equals always some dipshit breaking into cars to steal their books of CDs. For you younger readers, go ask your parents what those were, but still they had a very relaxed approach. Lots of stories, but just a quick snapshot. The town had a very large park, where one day I was sitting in a pretty secluded area. Since I was so engrossed in furiously writing some stupid angst-ridden poetry at the time, I didn't even notice when the cop walked up on me. My first knowledge of him being there was him picking up my pipe of weed that I had left laying on the table. He asks and I give permission for him to search my bag, figuring I'm already fucked, so might as well be honest. He finds my gram of weed and one unopened beer, sneers, and says, "Is this seriously all you have?" I say, "Yeah." He shakes his head, tosses the stuff back in my bag, and walks away, saying, "And I shit you not, these kids these days. Fucking amateurs." Upon later reflection, I think this was largely for my benefit. Even at this point, I still largely regarded cops as the enemy. I think largely due to my hometown experiences. It wasn't a hatred, but more of an us versus them kind of rivalry. The thing that really changed my thinking was about a decade or so later, when my dad died. Now this may get a little sad, but that's not the point. The point was how my perspective changed. My dad died in a plane crash when his little kid plane that he and his buddy built mostly in our garage went into the ocean. Now it had been some years, so there had been a bit of the changing of the guard in regards to the police force of that town. Fire and brimstone chief had been kicked out, but there were still several of the old crew still around. And you know what? I later learned that nearly the entire force had spent their off-duty time combing the beaches for remains and wreckage. Some of these guys had dive training and had been risking their lives searching in our generally rough and murky coastal waters. Indeed, it was an off-duty officer who eventually discovered his body. At his funeral there was a large attendance of officers present to show their respects. One guy, Officer Tiny, yes because he was huge, it wasn't the most original place, got up and told this hilarious story about my dad using his 60s past to convince this heroin addict that times had changed and that he was just giving him another quick dose of heroin to ease him out instead of the naloxone or Valium or whatever he was actually giving him. He paused, then started. "Of course there was the time he saved my life." And he couldn't continue because my dad had saved him from drowning in his own blood after he got called to a domestic where some meth head stabbed him in the chest and side 8 times. He eventually said, "I'm sorry, but he was my friend, and I miss him." Sorry, my point was not to belabor this sob story, but to indicate how this changed my perspective. For the first time I realized, holy shit, these folks are actually human beings, just like me. It threw many of my youthful misconceptions right out the window. So it makes me very glad to continue to hear positive stories about good honest cops like yourself who understand that often the spirit of the law is more important than the letter. It sounds like you are a credit to your profession and that your community is lucky to have you. Cheers. One of my friends from class a couple semesters ago is a cop a couple cities over. He's a cool guy and we worked on the first class presentation together. Anyway, I'm sitting in my car before our class at approximate 7 PM, that's 1900 hours for you blowliners, and I decide I'm going to smoke before class. This class was required, but almost insultingly easy. I usually walk around the parking lot with my J, but security guards were doing rounds or something, and while they have a reputation for being pretty laid back about pot use, I don't want to take a chance. So I'm inside my car lighting up and just kind of casually reading the textbook, and it's getting kind of smoky in my car. So I look around and then crack a window to let the smoke out. When I saw security was gone, I rolled the window all the way down and ashed my J. I put it back in my mouth and go back to reading. Then, out of the corner of my left eye, I see a cop car coming my way. It passed behind me, and I didn't think anything of it, because at that point I was already really high, and forgot I had been smoking. When I realized I had the joint in my mouth still, I got one of those sharp pangs of terror that starts in your chest and shoots up to your head, and your intoxicated brain is like, fuck, we fucked up. Then I looked for the cop car and didn't see it, but then I was looking at my passenger window and was like, man, thank God my windows are tinted. And I look out my driver's side window, and for some reason it doesn't look as dark. I'm thinking maybe it has to do with the placement of the light. Maybe it's because I'm closer to it? Is it because oh fuck, it's because I left it open. After having that realization, I saw headlights again, and I just knew it was the cop car. I'm too high for this point, GIF. Sure enough, the bearers come on, and over the speaker I hear, show me your hands. I show my hands. Open the door from the outside and step out of the vehicle. I do it. Hands. Hands. I wanna see them, oh Christ almighty, they think I'm a drug dealer or something. I can't even explain myself, I'm so fucking high. RN, put your hands on the roof of the vehicle and take one step back. Shit. I can do this. Don't. Move those goddamn hands. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Now twerk. What? Twerk? Wait, did he tell me to twerk? What the fuck? I turn around and look at the cop car, and then I hear twerk, 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 laughing. Hands on the car. At this point I'm not or what to do or think, and the officer gets out of his car, and it's the dude from my class. He said he saw me smoking up in my car and wanted to fuck with me. I don't know how to explain what it felt like going to class after that. I rolled up on a group of kids trespassing on a patch of land at night. They didn't know they were technically breaking the law because there was no signage where they came in. I planned to tell them they needed to leave, but one of them took me aside and told me they were taking an out-of-town friend on a snipe hunt as a much-deserved act of revenge. I couldn't resist and joined in. Winks and nods were exchanged. I called my shift on a radio back channel, and the snipe hunter was called front and center. I informed him that the snipe is an endangered species and the act of hunting one was a felony punishable by 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. All of his conspirators denied snipe hunting, saying that they were just stargazing and didn't know the guy doing the hunting. He was standing there, wide-eyed and literally holding the bag with his snipe stick in the other hand. He stuttered and stammered an excuse and insisted the conspirators were lying. About that time, 3 more cruisers appeared, lights and all. As if choreographed, we all stepped aside, and the sheriff himself made an entrance and assessed the situation. Dead silence. After he made the inquiries, we all busted out laughing. The whole otherwise very slow night was captured in a group picture, complete with the victim, his friends, my shift, and the sheriff. I'm not a police officer, but a police officer approached me for this. Me and my high school GF at the time decided to spend all night hanging out and running around local parks and stuff. Lots of fun. We ended with breakfast and I decided to drop her off after. I was driving this tiny Nissan pickup truck with a bench seat. She wanted to cuddle, so she didn't put on her seatbelt and, instead, leaned across the seat and rested her head on my lap. Very sweet and cute. Minutes after leaving the parking lot, a police officer is following us and turns on his lights. She panics, sits up, and discreetly puts on her seatbelt. Once pulled over, the police officer, a young guy, comes up and looks in the window at her. "How old are you?" she says. 18, and he asks me to step out of the car. I think I'm about to get a big ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. Tells me, "I saw you driving kind of unsteady," and once I put on my lights, I see a young girl's head pop up through the cab window. "So, I know why you're driving unsteady. I'm in shock at the implication. I was your age not too long ago, and I get it. You guys like each other a lot. She's a pretty girl. You're just having fun. What I'm concerned about is that she's the proper age, and that other old school officers would nail you for public indecency / reckless driving / something like that. So I want you to make sure, in the future, you're wearing protection. Gotta stay safe, and concentrate on your driving when you're driving. Gotta stay safe. Okay buddy, go have an awesome day. I was speechless, especially because about 10 minutes before, she and I actually did have a quickie in the parking lot that absolutely would have gotten us fucked over. Not illegal, but here is my go-to story. I was called to a residence where the complainant stated that a child from down the street had brought an item to their house and that she was at a loss. Upon arrival I made contact with complainant and she relayed this story. I was washing dishes and I looked out the window where all the girls, neighborhood girls between 6 to 9 years old, were playing on the trampoline. They were using a large rubber penis-shaped device to hit each other. I ran out and grabbed it and turned it off. The kids had no clue what it was, and in their defense it was purple with sparkles and other inlays. Kinda pretty if not for the fact it was a 10 inches rubber dildo. Well, I secured the item in an evidence bag, and no crime having been committed I made a command decision to return it to the owner. I took it and rolled it up in said evidence bag in such a way it would unroll when held by the top. I then knocked on the dildo owner's door, and when she answered I snapped it down. Using my most curt cop voice I said, "Ma'am, your daughter secured your personal item and was accosting your neighbor's children with it about the face and neck. At this time your neighbor does not wish to pursue charges. However, I will need you to sign this evidence form. It was very detailed description, so I can return your personal item." I have never seen someone show so much embarrassment and humiliation as that lady did. She could not even speak or look at me. The best part was this other lady that was deeper in the residence that kept insisting on knowing what was going on. Not illegal, but certainly weird. Got a noise complaint call where the neighbors informed dispatch the parents are out of town and suspect underage drinking and or possible drug use. These types of calls are the worst because you can almost guarantee someone is puking in the back of your car and you'll have to write a buttload of local ordinance paper. We roll up, throw the overheads on to scatter as many as possible, and make a slow walk up to the front door. We play the nobody's home game for a while until one of the kids lets my partner in the back door. We subsequently find around 12 teenagers and what appears to be multiple bottles of rum and vodka, as well as several baggies containing marijuana and some pills. Upon further inspection, we find the liquor bottles have been emptied and filled with water. The marijuana is actually oregano and parsley and the pills were just aspirin. They were having a pretend party to put on social media, but the strongest thing in the room was a Red Bull. Edit. Shit, I forgot the best part. This was shortly after the movie Superbad came out, and we had a pool going for the first guy to break up a party and use that line, "I assume you all have crack and guns on you," or something similar. I said it, and it was witnessed, but the guys refused payment based on how pathetic of a party it was. I've posted this before, but I always find it hilarious cause my dad is a goofy fun guy. He's been a cop for almost 30 years now, and he loves his job cause he gets to be out in the community and make a difference. The guy's gonna retire next month and he's stoked he gets to play Battlefield and go on vacation. Anyway, he gets a call one night about some teenagers vandalizing a park. Dispatch lets him know that it's a lady that calls 24/7 thinking she's the neighborhood watch. So as he cruises in towards this park, he comes in all lights blacked out and watches from a distance. After a couple minutes of watching, he realizes these people are playing hide and seek. They also look a little older than just teenagers. He gets out of a car and sneaks up to some of them hiding in a group behind some trees and bushes. My dad hunkers down behind them, and one of them looks back and sees him. The kid freaks out and starts to run, and my dad grabs him and says, "Dude, shut up, or the other team will find us." The guys crack up cause now they realize my dad is down to win this game. He ends up playing hide and seek with this group of 21-year-olds for the next hour. The best part was about 6 months later. I'm having a Halloween shindig at my house and my dad stops by cause he wants to score some burgers off us while he's at work. He walks in and a guy at the party is like, holy shit, your dad is officer. He played hide and seek with us. A friend of mine had the police called on him for what got way out of hand real fast. So a group of my friends had found this treehouse out in a forest near some fields that they used to go chill in, listen to music, smoke up, drink a few beers, not harming anyone. Anyway, nobody really went up that way, so that hadn't expected to go there one day to find it smashed to shit. Real dick move by somebody there. They'd had some rad graffiti in there and all. So of course the next time they went up there, two of them decided to fix it up. One had a hammer and nails and began piecing together what he could. The other guy made a little fire and was chatting to a girl that had joined them. I don't know if they knew this at the time, but some people used to walk their dogs up in the field next to where they were. This is important. Anyway, they are getting on with things. Flirting with the girl is going well. She's laughing at jokes. The fire is being tended to and the treehouse hammered together again. Suddenly the guy hammering feels something jab into his back and he is told drop the hammer. He puts it down and is then told to put his hands up. They were surrounded by armed SWAT officers. This is a real big deal as in the UK regular officers don't carry guns. He knew shit was going down. Likely being slightly drunk, underage and a bit high. I imagine he was having a nightmare of a time there. Eventually it calmed down and they explained it all and the officers laughed it off and headed back. They found out that some woman walking her dog had seen the fire and the hammering and heard the girl laughing but thought it was screaming. She put 2 and 2 together and got over 9,000 and called the police saying 2 teens were killing a girl with a hammer and burning the body. That's how 2 guys I know almost got killed by SWAT. Got one for ya. Not a cop, but was a stupid teenager. I had just graduated high school and getting ready to go in the Navy. This was early 2000. My buddies and I were at a friend's apartment that we'd party at regularly. He got it before our senior year when he got kicked out of his parents' house for being a fucker. So he dropped out, got a job, furnished us a great senior year. Since we were there regularly, the cops were there regularly. The cops in the town grew to know us, but gave us a bit of leeway since we never fucked up the neighborhood or tried to be anything but cool with the cops when they were called. Well, my last party there before I get cut, so we are planning to really fuck shit up. There's tons of people there, more than ever before. Everyone is super loud, puking everywhere, fucking everywhere, and the cops show up. Those fuckers walked past the entire party and locked me up. Got super rough with me and dragged me out of the apartment. I'm thinking, fuck, I'm going to get kicked out before I go to boot. I'm pissed, scared, drunk and sad in the back of these dudes' car, and they pull off into a parking lot and pull me out. Take my cuffs off and open the trunk. I look in the trunk and there's a 6-pack in there. Those dudes had found out I joined and was leaving soon. Both were Marines and wanted to welcome and congratulate me. We sat there for a while shooting the shit and they gave me advice on survival in boot camp and A school and how to take it in the ass because I was going Navy not Marines. They got a call, dropped me off back at the party, wished me good luck and took off. That was probably in my top 5 coolest nights. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.